Sorry, I gotta take my cat out. My cat is meowing in the background, wanting to be let out, so just a sec. Okay. I guess you didn't like hearing about the hysterectomy. Hey folks, welcome to my channel, Authentic TJ. If you're a first timer here, I am a queer trans guy, 43 years old, just starting off on this YouTube thing, coming at you with big life events, small life events, vlogs, authentic chats, and today is part 3 of Hysterectomy of a Trans Guy. If you have not seen parts 1 and 2, I will put a link down below. Watch those and then come on back here and watch this one. And if any of that stuff interests you at all, what I said, what I'm bringing at you, please hit the subscribe button down below and like this video. For those of you coming back, welcome. And initially, I have now taped this part 3 a few times. This is actually the 3rd time I've taped it because it ended up being quite lengthy. And I was really trying to like edit it down and figure out what I wanted to put in, what I wanted to leave out. And there was a lot of stuff that I didn't want to cut. So what I'm gonna do is a part 3 AB, or a intro, a bonus feature. Maybe it'll be a bonus feature. One is going to be specifically talking about the type of hysterectomy I received and going into a little bit more about that. And the other one is going to be specifically focusing on the challenges. And again, if you're not too sure what I'm talking about, would really encourage you to go see part 2. You will see what some of those challenges that came up in the hospital for me were. And so gonna be talking about that and kind of the steps I'm taking to follow up on that and going into much more depth about those. So stay tuned for a bonus feature. So first off, want to let you folks know exactly what kind of hysterectomy I had done. I just have some papers here so I can look off of to make sure that I say it exactly right and don't lead anyone astray. So the kind of hysterectomy I had was a laparoscopically assisted vaginal hysterectomy and a bilateral oophorectomy. I had my cervix, my uterus, my ovaries, my fallopian tubes, everything was taken out. And how that was done was laparoscopically. 2 incisions right here, one in my belly button, and then another incision quite a bit further down, probably like right there. And for the 2 on my side and the 1 in my belly button, those were for the laparoscopic tools. And the incision quite a bit lower down, that is the extraction point. So that is where my cervix and my uterus got taken out of. I believe that's where everything got taken out of. And then the top of my vagina was sewn back up. That is why they say to not have any penetrative sex for at least 8 weeks. As you can imagine, if those sutures got torn, there could be a lot of problems, infections, and just would be horrible. And I also have sutures on the other sites as well. So with that, my nurse in the hospital said, you know, if you can take the full 6 weeks off, I would really encourage you to do that. And you cannot, basically what she said was very light activity. Can't lift anything heavier than a teapot. So for the full 6 weeks, there's no lifting of heavy things, there's no vacuuming, cleaning, anything like that. So it is really, really taking it easy. I recognize how privileged and lucky I am that I am able to take the full 6 weeks off. I have sick time that will cover a bit of that, and then I'm able to go on to medical EI. So that's the surgery I had done. The incisions have healed up really well. They're pretty much non-existent now. You can't even really see them at all. And I haven't really had any issues or challenges. Just so folks are aware, there will be a bit of spotting. And what the doctor and nurses said to me was spotting is totally normal, but if it starts to become heavier and looks as though it's like a period, then that's cause for concern and that I should go in and speak with someone. And so far, everything has been okay. I have had spotting and that's about it. I just want to quickly go over what it's like to actually be in the hospital and get a surgery done, and a surgery like this done. Just quickly going over it. So you have to get there pretty early. I needed to fast the day before, so 12 hours ahead of time I couldn't have anything to eat or drink. And that is to help with not feeling sick when you come out of the anesthetic. So I get there, you go to the admission desk, you do all your paperwork, and for anyone who's going to be in the hospital for a period of time, you get a bracelet or a wristband. And on that is your full name, birth date, you will have an F or an M on there indicating your gender, and some other stuff is on there as well. So you go to admissions, then you go to surgical daycare. And surgical daycare is where they prep you for surgery. So that's where a nurse is hooking you up to an IV, and again, the nurse is going over kind of what the procedure is going to be. They're letting you know how long you'll be in surgery for, how long you'll be under for. You basically then just lay there until they're ready to take you up to the operating room. So I was waiting. Finally I get wheeled up, and what no one informed me of is that you're wheeled up to what I refer to as an operating room wait room. And so what that meant was I was brought in and lined up next to 5 other gurneys, and there's no barriers, right? You're just all lined up there. There's a whole bunch of nurses, there's surgeons, there's anesthesiologists, there's a whole bunch of people just running around talking, laughing. And I wish that I could have just been informed that that's the space I would be in just before going into the operating room, because that did not bode well for my anxiety whatsoever. It was so high-paced, so for myself, so anxiety provoking. So I'm lying there, and initially I had a nurse come up to me, ask me my name, my birth date, what I was there for, what the surgery is, and that was unnerving to always have to be saying hysterectomy, hysterectomy, hysterectomy. And not that I personally feel any shame about that, but really didn't feel overly comfortable in constantly having to say it out loud, and especially when I'm lined up on a gurney. And so that nurse asks me all those questions, they leave, then I have an anesthesiologist student come over to me and ask me the exact same questions again. They also did ask me more questions specific to going under. You will be getting a tube put down your throat. And I'm still just lying there. I have no idea when I'm going into surgery. I have no idea how long I'm gonna be there for. And then I can overhear the anesthesiologist student speaking to this other anesthesiologist, and all I hear is, well, no, that can't be right. It's for a hysterectomy. And the student turns and looks back at me and is like, yeah, that's correct. And then the older anesthesiologist is like, oh, okay. Now, for any of you who have experienced any sort of oppression, homophobia, sexism, transphobia, you just know when someone has a problem with you. It was very evident to me that this older anesthesiologist had a problem with me. Had a problem with my being trans, is how I took it. And for those of you out there who have experienced something similar, you're gonna know what I'm talking about, where you just know that someone is not cool. And all of a sudden I see my surgeon walk in with runners on, shorts on, and a t-shirt. And they pick up my charts, and he looks over at me, kind of smiles and nods. Now this is where I obviously think something very different when it comes to surgeons. I imagine that they come in like an hour or two ahead of time, they're opening the chart, they're flipping through it, they're really getting themselves ready for surgery. No. It looks as though my surgeon just like walked off the street from the gym from a run, I'm not too sure. And no word of a lie, right after he kind of looked over at me, nodded, smiled, I get wheeled into the operating room, and like 3 minutes later, if that, he's in there in scrubs ready to do the surgery. Now, really wanting to let folks know what it's like to go into an operating room if you've never experienced it. It is so loud. I can't even explain, like, I don't even know what it is. It's just like a lot of metal against metal. The surgical tools are like hitting the metal trays, and you have a whole bunch of nurses and people in there talking and giving orders, and there's like the beeping of the machines, and then there's just like super bright lights. And it is such a, as you can imagine, cold, sterile environment, and there's nothing warm about it at all. And what's really unfortunate, and I was talking to some friends about this as well, and maybe they do have this for some surgeries, it would just be so amazing to have someone there who their job is to welcome you, call you by your name, let you know what's happening, what's going on, and just to really ground you, or have it that it's much less anxiety provoking, and it's just a much more human connection. Because like I said, I got wheeled in, there's all this noise, there's like this bright lights and there's orders, and the only thing, I had one person, I believe was a nurse, look over at me and say, "Hi, Tyler." And that was awesome, but I could have used a bit more. And next thing I know, you know, the surgeon is saying to the anesthesiologist, "Give him blah, 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 blah of this and blah, 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 blah of that." And then the mask goes on my face and I'm out. But again, just going back to prior to going out, if there was a way to just humanize that experience a bit more, I think it would really go, I feel, a long, long ways. Yeah. So that's basically what happens. And then you go to a recovery room. They monitor you coming off of anesthesia and off of the anesthetic, and they kind of assess you enough, and they feel that you're then okay to be moved to your room. Then you will be wheeled to your room. So now I'd like to talk a bit about some of the challenges that I came up against at the hospital. So stay tuned for part 3, hysterectomy of a trans guy.